Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GLL Apex Legends series, where we are about to reach the climax of the competition. LG have had a fantastic weekend, showing consistency and discipline. It's meant that for the entirety of day 2, they've led the leaderboard. However, earlier on this evening, their lead was diminished, but now they've risen once again, and the score gap is quite large. However, there are still conditions in place where they might not be first by the end of our final match. My name is Parla, and I am your desk host. I'm still joined by Glitter and Bravo.
Oh,
you got a special one.
Did you get a special one yet?
No.
I always seem to have a special one for Bravo, not for Oz, not for Dread. Well, Dread, we have Dread's existentialism.
Yeah.
More of a field, though.
Yeah. Yes, more of a field of study.
Yes.
Laughing in the background. Either way, guys, let's get right into the thick of this. LG surely going to be feeling a bit of extra pressure. They might feel safe, but they're going to know that there's a potential that other teams are going to be looking to fiddle with their plans. Glitter, you were mentioning that before. We've spoken about it the entire weekend. Would you like to catch us up on exactly what might happen in the last game?
I kind of want it to happen. I mean, okay, say you're one of the teams that are in 15th through 20th. At this point, you know that mathematically, there's just no way for you to go from where you currently are to even a top 8 finish in one more game. That's just not going to happen points-wise unless you somehow kill everyone in the game. It's not going to happen. So I would maybe go for the people in first place, and not just one, but hopefully 2 or 3 teams hot dropping on LG to try and put a stop to their dominance thus far. I mean, maybe it's wishful thinking, you know? Maybe they're just going to play out the last game like, you know, nothing's even different, but
I'd love to see him shake it up too. But is it BM to all of a sudden a team that can't?
We're bringing manners into a competition?
This is the thing, right?
Good question.
From my perspective, there are definitely circumstances in gamesmanship, which is, I think, the more official term for like BM side of esports, right? Where there's a place for it. This might be one of them, you know? It's Battle Royale. All of these teams have fought tooth and nail to get to this point. And if you're in that bottom bracket where you're not having a chance of gaining any money, you're not going to be in the top placements, maybe it's going to validate you more, Dreadnought, shout out to you, by disrupting other people's plans and maybe knocking the people off from the top and giving a chance to others just below them. I'm not sure, but it's a theory.
Yeah,
Thank you, Paula.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. What the heck's going on over there?
It's a fist bump, man.
I saw it.
You've never seen one of those before?
Oh, I've seen it. I'm more worried about the alliance than the actual fist bump itself. That could put me in a pretty tough spot on the end of the desk.
Hey, man, I'm Bravo squad
cool?
to the end of time,
okay,
buddy.
I'm just making sure. For LG, I think, though, what they need to do is just not change anything. And I think LG is a squad that is going to play that way. I think other teams might try to play, they double down on being careful, and it could cost them. I think if LG plays their game, they got this. But, yeah, I think on the other side, we're going to need teams like VP and other teams that are within striking distance of first. They're going to need to really look at their game and say, how do we get maximum points out of this, right?
Yeah.
Getting a top 3 with an average amount of kills, not going to be enough to secure. How are they playing the early game? How are they playing the mid game? Things like that. I'm really excited to see.
Just to reiterate to our audience at home, who I'm sure are very much educated, probably more so than me, on the matter of Apex Legends, what we've seen as a trend over the last couple of days is that if you finish in first place, you're around 20 plus points, in the low 20s. And with LG's current lead, the teams below them need LG to have a rough game, and they need to have a fantastic game, if not a win. And so those are the conditions right now. LG have a lot of pressure on their shoulders in a relatively comfortable position. But the guys beneath them, man, I'm expecting some fire.
Which brings us to the first time that we are in this kind of point scenario with this table, because LG, in theory, could really play for placement here and not have to be too kill heavy because of where the delta is in points. Right? This is the only time in the tournament so far where we've seen a team be in a position where simply playing for points would mathematically put them in a pretty good place compared to the rest of the games.
Yeah, because literally if just, you know, the team right below them has even a mediocre game, the gap is already so big that if LG even has like 3 points added, they're fine.
Absolutely, yeah.
And with that being said, big shout out to my analysts once again. Let's head on over to our casters for the final match for the EMEA region.
So then, ladies and gentlemen, it all comes down to this, our final game of the EMEA region. It's been an absolute pleasure to commentate over these games. Dreadnought, of course, alongside me for this final game. just give us the permutations here for what needs to happen for LG not to be crowned our champion.
Alrighty then. So 19 points from between them and second place, clearly increasing only from that point on. First place is worth 12 points. Second place is worth 9 points, escalating or de-escalating kind of from that point on. I think it'd be fair to say that you likely need one of those two positions, and then clearly you got to make up for that when it comes to the kills. So if you get first place, a minimum of 9 kills. When you're looking at the second place positioning, you would again need a minimum of 10, and that is assuming Luminosity doesn't score.
Yeah, that's kind of the asterisk that we need to keep involved in all of this conversation. Is the longer that Luminosity exist in this lobby, the less the chances are for any other team to be able to knock them off that perch. You have to say, maybe realistically, looking at things here, Virtus Pro are the team that could do it. Reciprocity still in with a chance, but Reg haven't been playing to the high level that we saw them yesterday, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that is very fair, and you know, I think taking our last glance at that and thinking of how this can play, the speculation on whether or not you take out the top team or not, can't help but feel like there's a bit of a Super Mario strategy going on here. You know, the anti-blue shell approach. You never want to sit in the first because you know that's got to be the target. I feel like Luminosity maybe too much put a mark too heavily on their own back, you know, and suddenly it's a question of whether or not those other teams, if that does end up happening, is that a more advantageous position than being in first in and of itself? I would say 19-point threshold means first place is better place.
The 19-point threshold still means you kind of had that bad game under your belt, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that we're heading into our final game now kind of puts you in that position where you just have to survive for a certain amount of time, and getting towards that end circle is going to be huge for them. I think Circle will play a little bit of a part of this, but I expect Luminosity to play extremely conservative in this game. They're not the ones who need to make the plays.
Yeah, no, I think very much so. And with that in mind, we've been lightly hinting at, you know, sometimes Luminosity can struggle if the circle falls onto their side. This would be one of those moments purely because they have such an advantage and existing is on their side. I think even if we got a refinery circle, I don't look at that as a problem. It's probably more of a benefit here for them.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to talk about a little bit is this lineup itself, Luminosity Gaming, because what a story it is. We're going to have people tuning in for the first time here and watching competitive Apex Legends. Before the Apex Legends preseason invitational in Poland, nobody knew who these players were.
Not even kind of.
Xsense and Zanya, they were known as 7, 8, 9, and the way that they introduced themselves to everybody who was a fan of Apex Legends is something that will go down in history.
No, it absolutely will. With you know, Imperial How have an amazing clip yesterday, but really the OG first kind of iteration of the Miracle. Watch me do everything with the odds stacked against me is Tisanya there over Old King Canyon River battle that he ended up having. And they had an outstanding performance. And as you said, with that one game, built a lot of fans, a lot of hype behind them, and then it just continued. And then it wasn't the end of the trail, right? We got one Miracle play, and suddenly it was Miracle play after Miracle play to where our bar was, this is the norm for this roster. And a lot of it came down to them as individuals. And as I've been talking about, the whole squad's been talking about here, they went from being 3 individuals to an actual group now, and it looks good.
Yeah, they really have become an absolute unit of a team. And looking over to Lazarus now as they're just dropping off the high ground here, just outside of the tree area, just looting up. And this is going to be kind of the what would you expect at the start of this game? We are seeing some early downs actually going down in the feed there. You can see Anarchy picking up one with the Peacekeeper. That's not going to affect those top places too much. Navi, who we're jumping on board with here, have had probably the best day, I would say, out of everyone so far outside of LG. The only issue is they give themselves so much to do coming in today after their poor performance yesterday. I think they kind of want to have yesterday back.
Yeah, they definitely do. They basically put themselves in a position that the last 2 games of the day, they needed to be near flawless. In the last game, not even placing on that top 10 section. So definitely a big setback. Enough to put them out of the conversation for first place. But as we said, they are still very much for, I think, even top 3 here at this point in time. As long as here in our last game, they do have a very, very standout performance. But Kick all the way down at Dome, as we do see, it's going to be a bit more off to the east of Capital City, more train yard-ish for now when it comes to our information on our circle.
Yeah, looks like it could be ending potentially towards the bottom of Hot Springs there, where those 3 little buildings go together just under the rotation out from the west side of the map, where we find Mirage's Voyage. Sorry, it's still difficult for me to say.
Mirage Voyage. It is, honestly, it's hard for me to take in, and not a bad way. It's like just every time I see it, I'm like, I'm sad that I didn't get to experience and play this yet myself, because it looks like a darn good time.
Yeah, it does look like a good time, and as I said previously, you are the party man out of the group, so it's no surprise to see that.
For everybody at home, can you reference how, I feel like I got to clean my slate here, but yeah, not the time nor place. We'll figure it out.
Every single person who is watching this broadcast can clearly tell that you are the party animal of the group.
Yeah,
there's no need.
That's the dreadest evangelism.
No need for me to explain it any further. Anyway, hopping on board with LG here. One team has dropped, like I mentioned, but LG, I mean, not only does this mean they can play the game that they're comfortable with and moving across the map? Look at the loot set that they've managed to get early on here. 2 purple shields, a gold shield on Zanya. This is perfect for them.
Yeah, and they even had an opportunity to move into a 4-8 by optics that we actually saw Zanya just go by. So yeah, it is outstanding in the loot department for them. And not too much to be concerned here. Virtus Pro, though, on the very opposite side of the map, not nearly as well geared here, but about equal distance to have to trek as Luminosity towards our next circle.
Yeah, and VP, as I say, they dropped in Lava City. Usually very, very strong loot around this area of the map on drop, but only 1 blue shield to speak of here. I wonder if they maybe have a loot key in their back pocket, because that looks like where they might be looking to rotate. Maybe that's the reason they haven't decided to loot out for more shields and just kind of working with the weaponry that they have. Or this might just be a rotation through the vault towards that next circle.
The world may never know. As we transition here over to Wizen, a lot more center focus when it comes to their positioning. Did see a couple of shots here go by. Wingman Alternator showing that gear is probably not optimal here for the Wizen circumstances. Even going to go ahead and drop in early portal. The question is this the push or to run away? We couldn't tell there when it came to the audio on the shots. Potatoes, meanwhile, at the train yard, finding a scuttle.
Yeah, there's one thing we can always promise with the Potatoes is that they always seem to be involved in a fight whenever we cut to them, so certainly not afraid to get involved. And obviously this team qualifying from the kill race aspect. Qualifiers, not surprised to see them being too confident when they have to go into those 3v3 battles. A gold triple take in the hands here of Shiv as well. The only problem is he's got no shields to get away with, and he just about manages to slide away from danger.
Shiv's insane, man. The fact that he was
why I love him.
He walked that train track twice with no shielding, and not once did he go, should I post up and shield? He's like, nah, I got this. They managed to get by. They do not end up knocked. Shiv holds his own, and they do end up opening the vault here. Watson fencing out, and things look good there for at least now here. Reciprocity on the other side of the train yard. As we've seen, struggling to approach the train yard. That's been the continuous conversation of this section of the map. It's easy to exist in when you have it, but hard to approach if you don't.
So many different levels of elevation that you have to take into consideration, and you can see as they move up towards that big building, that big open garage at the far side. Trying to take their time to formulate the correct push in here. They don't want to give anything away. They are one of those teams in a position to potentially upset Luminosity Gaming here, sat in 3rd place at the moment, but just outside of that kill threshold. I think they're around 23 points, I want to say. Just a quick maths as I glance across there, away from being able to dethrone Luminosity Gaming, and of course that takes into account that Luminosity Gaming would not pick up any points themselves.
Let's go that way.
We see here with Virtus Pro, they made their way over from Lava City, as we talked about before. Judging by the gear that we see them have now, I think it's fair to assume there was no Valky a part of this conversation or the equation, and going for a very wide rotation for themselves. That is going to be a pretty big setback. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Virtus Pro is our 2nd place team, and they are the ones looking for that 19 points to catch up here to Luminosity. And the rotation they're going does indicate that unlikely to find some of those kill points into the mid game that they, I feel like, absolutely need if 1st place is the goal.
Yeah, the only thing that maybe is on their side as far as the game that we're in is concerned is the fact that 19 squads are still remaining. And I kind of don't mind this rotation in the fact that they will be rotating from high ground towards this next circle. That's always a good thing to have, but I think also they might be looking to change this rotation. They're actually moving back towards the tree. Maybe they saw some loot that was available. They're trying to pick up the scraps that were left here at the tree area, because you look across and it's still a case of 1 blue shield for the entire team.
Meanwhile, for Samsung Morningstars, not nearly as good of an outcome here as we already tune in with Limex, who's been knocked. Caspier is going to be quickly followed up there. It's Samsung Nisa, the last to stand. Unfazed so far when it comes to the battle. Self-res opportunity coming through here for Limex. Feels like it is a absolute prayer. He's got 10 seconds after that to get the Phoenix kid off. It's not going to come through, and I believe that's the full wipe there as Samsung is out of here.
There's always that awful moment when you just think, I'm just about to pull off that self-res, and then just at the last second, the R99 spray comes in and drops you back down, this time permanently, and that will be the end of their tournament. On board with Papega Squadron, one of the teams that really did surprise us yesterday with their performances, and they're currently sat in a pretty nice position in that top 5, and I think they're just inside those prize money points as well. So for them, it's just a case of seeing how far they can progress as a squad up that leaderboard as we move about 60 seconds away now from our next ring in closing.
Yeah, they very much are within range to even claim second place here. They are in a very good position to escalate up on those leaderboards if they have a solid game. But again, being a little bit more patient here in our final match for all those teams on the top half of the bracket, I think they want to stick closer to what they know than maybe, risking it all to further that first place. We're not wanting to risk their own placement within those standings. And again, I think it's very understandable due to the relative point system here. Gibraltar Ultimate is going to be thrown down. G2 and friends hang out in the bubble for now.
Moving over now to Soar's point of view, and it's the team that's going to be just above them at the moment on Mirage's Voyage.
Another team out there in the distance, as we saw, on those train tracks transitioning. Not going to be the focus here for Soar, and I think understandable considering how close the other squad is. Even another out there, double tap on the scout, only connecting with a couple of bullets.
Is the corner of Mirage in? No, it isn't.
No, you're hearing the conversation. They're asking, is the corner of the ship in? And do we have to rotate? You're going to see that next ring in closing. And this is where you're going to see teams start to posture up, start to think about their next rotation in. What kind of areas do they want to try and control? Papega squad, though, still trapped in this tunnel at the moment, not trying to push out too much. We know how dangerous these choke points can be between train yard, and also kind of like the idea here, they're just waiting to see where this next ring does move to, with all those teams currently sort of pushing up onto train yard. It's a pretty good idea to just wait and see if there's anyone late rotating behind you. Oh my word, LG, I'm just looking at the kill feed now, and Reciprocity, XNZ is down, so Reciprocity is Orax who's managed to take one down with a PK.
You're right.
This makes things very interesting. However,
Reciprocity is not necessarily dominating the battle. Nesh actually ends up barely getting the healing off. Orax with 1 HP is going to try and get a Phoenix off. The Resurrection as well, and look at that.
That is down as well. Anaki's taking him down.
He's only got a self-res here, and again, this is going to be a long period of time. The Gibraltar ultimate should be enough to actually identify where he is if one tick of damage comes through.
Oh, LG are done! LG are out!
And that means unless they got a couple of kills placement-wise, that is 0 points available for them. So first place opens up here.
Oh boy, do we have a game on our hands now. Reciprocity drop as well. Let's find VP. Let's see where they are on the map at the moment, because Virtus Pro have a chance here to steal away our championship.
That they need a lot of kills along with those placements. 15 squads are available, so the points are an access point here for them, but they've got to be very efficient with their decision-making past this point. Whether or not they have identified that those teams along with them on the top half have gone down is yet to be determined here, so we'll see if that adjusts how they end up playing. Lazarus in the middle of the pack, not the best loot. It's on the back foot.
And you have to think that VP are going to be very much aware of what's just happened. They would have been watching that kill feed and hoping and praying that Reciprocity and Luminosity dropped early. Now the pressure falls onto their shoulders. How do VP deal with this pressure?
For now, it seems like they're just going to play it slow and calculated. They've got 1 minute and 25 till they're forced to make any major decision here. The train could be something that they rely on to use the mobility to move into that next circle here, a bit closer to where it's going to be cooler, sitting dead center in their little bubble homes here.
Yeah, sure.
I think with VP at the moment, we have to kind of reiterate the situation. They still pretty much need to win this game in order to...
They need 19 points. Any way to make that happen.
Even challenge becoming our champions here and taking that first place away from Luminosity. For Luminosity now, they're just going to be sitting here watching the spectator mode and just hoping and praying that something happens to VP.
The potatoes here, pretty good when it comes to the gear. Also sitting center of the map, right on the side of it. It looks like where Cooler was just a couple of seconds ago.
Yeah, I just wanted to check if the race.
You can almost feel the tension in this game now developing. We're kind of just sat here, just staring at what's happening ahead of us, trying to keep track of everything that's going to be going down, because at this point, every single little piece of information that appears on that kill feed could be a game-changing one.
They're really good. And we've already gotten our major piece of information across the board. But VP, they are relying on this train to be able to make some of the rotation through. I find it very curious on what they're going to do after this point, though.
Yeah, I want to stay on board with VP here. When this train leaves the station, You've got to
it's
feel,
make or break, it feels like.
Yeah, you've got to feel like teams are going to know they're on there.
And not only are they going to know they're on there, but VP, you've got to get some kills. You are not there. You are not where you need to be. At first is going to be the goal, and that has to come through those kills. Aggression has to be there. We started the conversation. At least there's 19 squads. Well, there's only 15 here, and it is whittling away rather quickly at the hands of people like Na'Vi as they continue here their advance through the choke. One more shot through, and yes, 14 squads as we lose Pepega Squadron.
Yeah, Pepega Squadron do drop, and Na'Vi continue their fine form today. Maybe it's Na'Vi who might have a crazy, crazy game to push themselves up towards those top spots. I don't think they're quite in contention with being able to take first place away from them unless something completely insane happens, but they're going to be much happier with their gameplay today in comparison to yesterday. We've stressed that a few times.
But to give you an idea of how much Na'Vi can game, and Reciprocity being out of this, they very easily could claim third place here. Maybe even second, depending on the results of Virtus Pro, but with them being alive and able to manifest their own destiny. Fair to give them that credit and see what they have here available for them. A couple of shots, though, definitely going to be pincered in here. No retreat opportunity out of this choke here on set for Na'Vi.
No, it's going to be difficult for them to push out here, and they're going to have to wait for other teams maybe to make that move. But the Potatoes are set up in one of those buildings towards the end of, towards Hot Springs here, where this circle looks like it's going to be finishing. It could well be a case of what we saw from Imperial How yesterday. That end circle, where he made that insane play, is where we could be ending our EMEA region final.
Yeah, I think it's very likely that that is going to be the case. They're on those old ground, just on the outskirts of some of those buildings that a lot of the teams were posted up on. Here we are back here with Virtus Pro. At least when it comes to the kills, oh my goodness, we got PJ just got absolutely obliterated.
Na'Vi is still picking up kills here. They're getting downs onto Lager. Can they convert these into kills, though? One player is going to have to be revived here. Lazarus now holding down one of these buildings on the outside. That's going to be a nice Peacekeeper shot. 105 on the second one as well. Doesn't quite connect, but does connect with the third. Huge amount of damage done with the PK there by Kishera.
Yeah, that was a great second shot. Once he ended up getting the drop there, I believe it was like 109 through that secondary shot, was really the turn of that fight in favor of Lazarus here. But gear is definitely desired. And the fact that armor is so very low there, wondering if they're going to be able to pick up and change that pace off of any of the targets here.
Yeah, and the bad news here for VP is the fact that squads are dropping constantly around them. They need to get kill points on the board if they want to pull off the upset here. The more teams that fall, the less points that are available here for VP.
Lazarus is not out of the woodworks yet, though, as you see them just being chipped at here by anyone and everyone. Soar taking a low ground positioning here over the circle. A very different stance than we've seen some of the other teams. Eventually, we'll be able to have to make a transition. But for now, pretty cheeky positioning. Potatoes, the ones launching some of the bullets their way.
Save your Watson ult.
Yeah, we have to put it on top there then.
So now the game really is slowing down as we approach the end of round 4. 23 seconds left. VP still in this game.
Checking the outskirts here first. Shots coming in from behind. Going to be a concern point knowing that they've been revealed.
Na'Vi now getting aggressive. 110 on that Peacekeeper shot and manages to get the elimination as well. Na'Vi once again, they seem like the team that are taking the initiative here as far as pushing in and taking control of things.
Very good when it comes to the kills as well. Gear looking great across the board. You do see this next circle indicating that they do have to make the rotation here out of the home that they have dominated for these past couple of seconds. Finding a Wraith portal on the outskirts. Shot comes through with that triple take. Only going to lock 24 there. Watson generator. Should be an easier removal there. Big loss coming out from the other side if no ultimate accelerators available. This is actually one of the harder shots for the triple take, because unless you take the precision choke to build it up all the way, the odds of you actually hitting one of those with your 3 bullets and the pellets and being a global shotgun, if you will, really very high chance that you remove some of that damage.
So Lazarus now having to rotate in very, very late here, and you have to wonder if he's going to actually be able to make it in. It's going to be a rotation here from Virtus Pro as well, but look at the distance that they have to cover. In 44 seconds or so, they're going to have to make a huge push in towards that last circle. I just wonder here, if VP are going to try and hold the high ground for as long as possible.
I think they are.
Make that last second rotation, maybe drop a few grenades down, pick up some kills on teams trying to rotate. They're going to look for those points that way.
I think that's where they're looking for it, and I can't help but feel like, to be honest, I think they're comfortable with second. It seems like they're just going to go with the placement, try and play their best game, and whatever happens, happens at this point. And it does seem, based on that positioning, it is determined that the high ground is going to be the play there for that. But Na'Vi is just unleashing here in our final game.
Yeah, more kills for Na'Vi. What a day they have had. If they could have repeated this yesterday, I think they probably would be top of our leaderboards. But unfortunately, you don't win Apex Legends games with just one day of action. You have to put it together consistently across every single game that you play. Problem for Na'Vi here, they've run into a Wild Virtus Pro who have held that high ground for as long as possible. Problem is now, with 18 seconds left, they have to get inside this circle. VP are falling, and they are not even falling to an opposition team. They have fallen to the circle.
And Noth is the last one to go down, and that is it here. Now 6 squads remain. Na'Vi showing that they are our kill leader, having the opportunity still to claim second place if they keep up this performance. But the loss of Claws, a major setback, only having themselves one person left here, picking up the banner and actually going out, but I don't think they're going to be able to pick that up. It's Potatoes, of all the squads, holding their own.
Potatoes, I believed in them from the start, and there's a reason that I believed in them. Maybe they will be the ones to close this game out and take home a win. 4 squads remaining now. Na'Vi still in the game as well. What a day they've had.
Yeah, they got the armor crack up above, drop down, one more shot through, and there it is, going to be the kill. Shiv picking it up. 3 squads here now remain for the Potatoes. Finding one more on the backside. Should be one shot.
The Potatoes are heating up towards the end of this game. Na'Vi finally falling down. 2 squads remaining. Shiv, Anarchy, Bukadij, what have you got left in the tank? Can you close it out?
How do you get to the high ground? That's the biggest thing. They just threw down, yes, the vertical zip, and that's a very straightforward way to be able to approach that part of the map. No Gibraltar to give you the shielding. This is very difficult to get that high ground, and you will die in this next rotation. 25 seconds. You have to make a play. You got all in.
The team on the other side of this, the only issue for them is there's only 2 players available, so a coordinated push here potentially from the Potatoes might be their only way in. The question is, do they know? There's only 2 players up there. The Wraith has to go first here and hit that Q.
They also had an armor swap available.
Here they go.
They also had an armor swap available, and one of them actually missed the initial drop. Grenades coming out across the board. Arcstars end up connecting all over the place here. Shiv cannot see anything. He is going to be snap knocked here.
Yes, he is. He goes down, and it is going to be the team on the high ground who are managing to hold things down. And it's Alliance who are doing the damage. Zip up to the top. 2 players still manage to do it, and Alliance do hold on. The push from the Potatoes isn't enough, and the high ground is the deciding factor in our final game. But bigger picture here, I believe that Luminosity will be our champions.
I do believe so there, due to the lack of success in that mid-game when it comes to the kills on behalf of Virtus Pro with the lack of placement there. And Reciprocity ended up struggling there. But what an interesting outcome of what could have kind of happened through that game.
People thought I was crazy, right, with the Potatoes pick early on? Just saying. Sorry to bring that back, but, you know.
Tell us how you really feel, Onset. On a scale of 1 to Potato, how much are you in love right now?
Look, my head looks like a potato. That's why I picked them, okay? On the Potato. That's why I got that thing going on with them, you understand? But enough about me, enough about them. Congratulations, of course, of making it that far in that final game, but it's all about Luminosity. Consistency, once again, in Apex Legends, showing to be the recipe for success.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful tale. We already talked about it a little bit on where they came from, where they are today, and to give, I mean, this is absolutely that moment of validation for the effort and hustle that they have been putting in here so far, and it is a bit of a Cinderella story, honestly. It's a little touching to see them show that much growth and strength and let it pay off.
Yeah, it's been 3 players, like we mentioned beforehand, we knew nothing about. They announced themselves in Poland, and now they can finally call themselves a champion. Congratulations to Luminosity Gaming. We're going to throw it back to the desk now, because we just like your faces.
Thank you so much, Onset and Dreadnought. And we're pretty certain that it's Luminosity that are our GLL Apex Legends Series champions. Of course, we need to officiate that and see the final leaderboard, and of course, the scoreboard for that final match. Nonetheless, that match was extremely exciting, and there was a chance it could not go in their favor. Unfortunately, there weren't any early engagements or chances where, no teams dropping on them at the very start of the match. But then they got into an engagement and they fell, and VP needed to perhaps be a bit more affirmative, try to take more fights, get those kills, and then eventually they fell to the circle, which is never nice to see.
I mean, to be fair, the only teams I think that we were really concerned about would have been Reciprocity and VP with how close they were in points, being able to potentially overtake LG. Rec did their job, and they
They did.
They took LG out early. They had
Yeah.
no chance to get any points. It just didn't go so well after that.
Yeah, we have to look at how LG fell, and just like Glitter said, it was Reciprocity that gets the first 2 kills. As Desu goes down first at the hands of Rec, and then it was Xsense. But it's actually Brotatoes that got the final kill.
The unsung heroes
On
of the weekend.
They are. So that's actually how LG fell. And we know with that 19-point delta between first and second that VP would have needed a much longer run than the one they had, presumably, to get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, and if they weren't going to have a long run, they needed to substantiate their points with kills, right?
They did. I mean, and to be fair, I think when Na'Vi came up from below and they saw them come up that zip in front of them, they had an opportunity to start getting those kills. They actually got turned on by Na'Vi, and Na'Vi was able to knock 2 of them, which is why they ended up dying to the zone. They dropped down already knocked, and at that point, there's not a whole lot you can do. But I think had that fight gone in their favor, they could have potentially set them up for success.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Glitter and Bravo, our final scoreboard is ready. Let's see how match number 12 played out for EMEA. The Potatoes managed to get 22 points. Na'Vi got 21. Alliance actually ended in 3rd due to the fact they had substantially less kills than Na'Vi and the Potatoes, even though they finished in 1st. And yeah, LG were all the way down in 18th. Virtus Pro, I'm trying to spot them out right.
I think these are some of the
10th.
highest
Virtus Pro and 10th.
the highest kill counts we've had for EMEA.
For EU, yeah, EMEA.
Potato, who would have thought?
And our final leaderboard, ladies and gentlemen, Luminosity Gaming are your GLL Apex Legends Series champions, the inaugural champions, and they should be very proud of their performance. It's been a great story to follow. Over day 1, they built up, and then coming into day 2, things began to get difficult, but they clawed their way back, and they made sure they held their league for the entirety of the time, and they finish 8 points ahead of Alliance. Virtus Pro in 3rd.
There's some pretty great stories here, right? Alliance coming in as a qualified team, placing 2nd. That's a huge statement for those players, for that organization. Also, you look at a team like Na'Vi. We were talking yesterday, they were in 17th about halfway through the day, so what a rally for them. Also, Papega Squadron and Fnatic EU are going to be happy with where they netted out in the end, but I'd say, you know, we cannot forget Alliance and the run they had, mainly because I want to talk pre-match 11. Alliance had 69 points, losing to LG at 94. That run from Alliance there in that final game brought them, essentially, they were in 5th place, brought them all the way to 2nd.
And with only an 8-point spread at the end of it all. LG had kind of bounced back and forth between having it be a little bit close and then having over 20-point leads on some of these teams. And when all was said and done, they only ended up 8 points ahead of Alliance.
Yeah, and so they will receive $10,000 for that first place finish. Remember, each of our regions has a prize pool of $25,000, or at least for EMEA, they had that prize pool. It's now been distributed. They'll be taking those winnings home. They'll be very happy with that. And of course, the bragging rights, you know, being able to say, we finished #1. I think that's the most important bit, Glitter and Bravo.
I think it is, especially because if we look at Poland, right, there might have been a thought that LG, then the 789 roster, could have been the best team in Europe. But if we look statistically, right, Na'Vi with their 2nd place, we would have thought that coming out of Poland on the scoreboard. But now I think LG kind of has their flag in the ground that they own Europe, and until they're dethroned, the conversation will be about them.
Yeah, through 1st place through 4th place, just 21 points, which was that average of the first, like roughly around an average of what a 1st place finish would be. So, you know, barely a game between almost the top 5. That's incredible to see just how close these teams were, and I guess representative of the skill level of all these people taking part, whether qualified or invited.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think another great case of that is Alliance's last game. When we look at a 12-game format, you can't. It's rare that we say, okay, that final game is going to be very important in terms of going from 5th place all the way to 2nd. But when you do have a table, just as you said, Paula, that is this tight, a single game at the end of the day can really make a big difference, not only in placing but also in prize money.
Glitter, would you like to add some final thoughts before we take an extended break before NA?
I mean, I was right.
I love it, guys. Congratulations once again to Luminosity Gaming. Thank you so much if you've joined us over this weekend and you've seen how the stories have progressed. I'm going to say goodbye to my analysts and casters for now. But, of course, we still have the second half of the NA competition to take place. We'll be taking a break now for about 2 hours. We'll be back at 1:45 CET. If it's anything how EMEA played out, you don't want to miss it. We'll see you then.